Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Shiva Narotavam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Adrayat Srinvatasva Katha Krishna Punya Shravana Kinshana Vidyanta Thoya Vadrani Vidmoti Sursitam Nashta Presha Bhajashu Nityam Bhagavata Shivaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavatinashtiki. We will be reading today Canto 4, Chapter 18, Text 6. Purasrishtahi asadhayo Brahmana ya Vishampati Hujamana Maya Drishta Asadhir Adrita Vrata. Word-to-word translation. Pura in the past, Srishtha created, he certainly, Osadhya, herbs and food grains, Brahmana by Lord Brahma, Yaha, all those which, Vishampati, O king, Pujamana, being enjoyed, Maya by me, Drishta, sin, Asadhi by non-devotees, Adrita Vrita, devoid of all spiritual activities. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. My dear king, the seeds, roots, herbs, and grains which were created by Lord Brahma in the past are now being used by non-devotees who are devoid of all spiritual understanding. Purport. Lord Brahma created this material world for the use of the living entities, but it was created according to a plan that all living entities who might come into it to dominate it for sense gratification would be given directions by Lord Brahma in the Vedas in order that they might ultimately leave it and return home back to Godhead. All necessities grown on earth, namely fruits, flowers, trees, grains, animals, and animal byproducts, were created for use in sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. However, the planet Earth, in the shape of a cow, herein submits that all these utilities are being used by non-devotees who have no plans for spiritual understanding. Although there are immense potencies within the earth for the production of grains, fruits, and flowers, this production is checked by the earth itself when it is misused by non-devotees who have no spiritual goals. Everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and everything can be used for His satisfaction. Things should not be used for the sense gratification of the living entities. This is the whole plan of material nature according to the directions of this material nature. In this verse, the words asabhir and adritavrata are important. The word asabhir refers to the non-devotees. The non-devotees have been described in Bhagavad Gita as dushkritina, miscreants, muda, asses or rascals, naradama, lowest of mankind, and mayaparta jnanam, those who have lost their knowledge to the power of the illusory energy. All these persons are asad, non-devotees. Non-devotees are also called griha vrata, whereas the devotees is called drita vrata. The whole Vedic plan is that the misguided conditioned souls who have come to lord it over material nature should be trained to become drita vrata. This means that they should take a vow to satisfy their senses or enjoy material life only by satisfying the senses of the Supreme Lord. Activities intended to satisfy the senses of the Supreme Lord Krishna are called Krishnathe Khila Cheshtaha. This indicates that one can attempt all kinds of work, but one should do so to satisfy Krishna. This is described in Bhagavad Gita as Yajnartha Karma. The word Yajna indicates Lord Vishnu. We should work only for his satisfaction. In modern times, Kali Yuga, however, people have forgotten Vishnu altogether, and they conduct their activities for sense gratification. Such people will gradually become poverty-stricken, for they cannot use the things which are to be enjoyed by the Supreme Lord for their own sense gratification. If they continue like this, there will ultimately be a state of poverty, and no grains, fruits, or flowers will be produced. Indeed, it is stated in the 12th canto of Bhagavatam that at the end of Kali Yuga, people will be so polluted that there will no longer be any grains, wheat, sugarcane, or milk. End of purport. Om Gyanatmirandasya Nanjana Shalakaya Chikshurunitamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Putrale Shrimadzi Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisha Shunvadi Pashtita Dishtarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Hari Shri Vasadi Kaura Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I humbly bow down and seek blessings from all the assembled Vaishnavas, and thank you for the opportunity to read Srimad Bhagavatam for my own purification. I've taken notes to summarize from the lecture of His Holiness Ramapada Swami. Today, we continue reading the words of Mother Earth in the form of cow to Prithu Maharaj after he asked her to supply all necessary food to his citizens. She was explaining why that supply was restricted. The essence in the purport is the supply was restricted because the purpose for which the creation was made is being neglected. Non-devotees having wrong idea why this earth is existing, why created, this didn't really matter to them. Everything they saw was for sense gratification, for party time. Drink and be merry, because tomorrow who knows? So enjoy life while you have it without any aim. No sense of giving thanks or gratitude. Just grab it and enjoy it. Because of that disposition, Mother Earth is explaining why the restriction. Because non-devotees folks taking this production, things previously created by Lord Brahma, things like grains, seeds, wheat, roots, herbs, natural production of earth, without any consideration of true purpose, which is making offerings to the Supreme Lord and taking prasadam of the Supreme Lord. They just exploiting for their own ends. She was saying, under your rule, King Prithu, people will be engaged in devotional service, will be engaged in offering these things to the Supreme, and when that takes place, then plenty of supply will be there. You train your citizens to offer everything to the Supreme, worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you will get everything with no scarcity. Srila Prabhupada is explaining in purport a very important principle. The purpose of creation is established along with creation. In third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna supplied a user's manual, a plan how they can utilize the facilities created for the satisfaction of Vishnu. He supplied principles of yagya or sacrifice. With this facility, there is a proper way of using it to perform sacrifice for things to be supplied. Gradually, you will come to the stage of returning to the spiritual world. If you're following the process of sacrifice, if you're performing your duties in a prescribed and religious way, and bountiful reciprocation with earth, the fruits of your pious activities are producing lots of facilities. It never should be used in sense gratification. It should be used in service to the Lord. Dharma should not be performed for the purpose of sense gratification. And if facility for sense gratification come because you perform your dharma, it should never be used in sense gratification. It should be only used in Krishna's service. Srila Prabhupada explains there are necessities of life, the animal propensities, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. We don't say don't eat, don't sleep, don't mate, or don't defend. But each of these things are to be used only in a prescribed manner and only in Krishna's service. When used only in Krishna service, the vow should be taken that to satisfy the senses or enjoy the material life should be done only for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, to satisfy his senses. Sounds a little tricky, like I have to scratch your back, you scratch my back, I will satisfy you, and by doing so, you are going to satisfy me, right? That's not how it is intended, although many people thinking that way. I will be religious, knowing that by being religious and in that prosperity, I will enjoy, and that will inspire me to be more religious so that I can prosper more, so that I can enjoy more. That inspire me to be more religious. There are religions that explicitly express like that, and Srimad Bhagavatam explicitly express otherwise. When the senses are engaged, Krishna is the master of the senses, Rishikesh, and if one uses senses in the service of the master of the senses, that's bhakti. Our necessities of grains and seeds and so on are supplied by Mother Earth when she sees that we are engaged in the service of the master of the senses. Our necessities are supplied. The senses are satisfied. We don't say don't eat, but take only Krishna Prasad. So our senses are satisfied. We don't say don't sleep, but don't sleep more than necessary. Sleep for the purpose of restoring the body so I can carry my service nicely and not fall asleep on the Srimad Bhagavatam morning classes, so I can be alert and chant my rounds nicely, and so on. Everything for service to Krishna. And in service to Krishna, one's own necessities, sense requirements are satisfied. In service to Krishna only, and that means not otherwise. Like a tortoise extending or withdrawing limbs. For service, limbs are extended, and if there is nothing related to service, or if something not appropriate for Krishna's pleasure, senses are withdrawn. That's the control, service to Krishna. And when there is service to Krishna, necessities are supplied. This message is so important for transcendental life because the tendency for enjoyment is overwhelming. We are in material world because of the tendency for enjoyment independently of Krishna. And it is natural to the soul to want to be happy, but it is misplaced. It's not on the platform of Krishna's happiness. This tendency, even in spiritual and religious life, to engage in religious activity and have this expectation, I'm going to enjoy. Something is going wrong, and people say, why is Krishna doing this? I'm supposed to enjoy. He broke the contract. We had a contract. The contract said, I serve you, and you give me sense gratification, and I enjoy sense gratification. It's been a good contract, but now he is breaking the contract. What's going on? Why God is doing this to me? To help us understand that it's not where there is our relationship is. He supplies from his warehouse per our requisition. That's not what a relationship is. Also, in purport, Srila Prabhupada is discussing eternal and temporary things. Those who committed to temporary or materialistic, or who have forgotten the position of Vishnu, Krishna, then that's asadbhi, the non-devotees. They are not in touch with sad. They are not interested in sad. They are interested in temporary. So such persons are described as duskriti. Kriti means merit. Non-devotees may do good deeds, acts that intendedly used to be help for others, but their purpose is to gain some kriti, some merit, and use that merit for sense gratification. If the purpose to satisfy Vishnu or Rishikesh is lost, then the senses coming in contact with object, fruits of piety because of some good deeds, they're implicated in sense gratification. And then that becomes the culture, and then it is a duskriti culture, as opposed to the sukriti culture. The purpose of sukriti person is simply satisfying the personality of Godhead, whatever comes prosperity comes and it is dedicated for the service of Krishna. And if it is diminished situation for some time, that's fine. Let me serve the Lord in that position. That's fine. I wish I had more to offer to the Lord, but if this is his desire, just be peaceful in service to the Lord. Another non-devotee, Mudha, the character of as when carries a load, thinking if I don't carry this load, how will I eat? Because after carrying some load, my master is giving me grass. Srila Prabhupada is saying in commentary, on the left and right side of the road there is grass, and he doesn't need to carry this big load to get grass. But he thinks if I don't carry this load, how I survive, how I will be happy. Devotees also work very hard, and Srila Prabhupada was saying that if he can say one thing about himself, is that he was never lazy throughout all his life. He was always engaged in something purposeful in service to Krishna. We are not advocating laziness, but we also not advocating Mudaism. We are active for a purpose, serving Krishna. But Mudha is working very hard for sense gratification. And when we ask such a person, can you come to the temple? He says that he doesn't have time. He has so much work to do. When we say, please read this book, their response, no, I don't have time. And it is true they don't have time because they are too busy carrying their loads. Another non-devotee, Naradama, the lost of mankind, those that egoistic, who don't see the high value of life and their activities are like an animal. And the last of non-devotees mentioned in purport is Mayapartha Jnana, those who have lost their knowledge to the power of the illusory energy. Educated people with PhDs, and they think that they're very learned, but they don't know what the purpose of life is. Srila Prabhupada would say that when you ask the topmost scholars and professors from famous universities what is the goal of life, they don't know. They will say, Swamiji, after this life is finished, everything is finished. They don't even know the first thing, who they are. They have the capacity, but it is misplaced. And when it is misplaced, everything of value that can come from that capacity is taken. Their knowledge is stolen by illusion. And such blind intellectuals lead the rest of the world. The Brahmanas that know have that capacity to see, to serve the truth. The rest of the world is dependent on them, and if they are blind and they are misleading, big problems arise for everyone who follows them. And if we address the leaders or the followers and tell them, excuse me, but you are following to the ditch, you will fall, they get disturbed. Leave us alone, they say, we are doing just fine. But you headed for the ditch. They can't hear and they follow to the ditch. It is sad because it is messy in the ditch. So this is what Mother Earth is saying to Prithu Maharaj, that non-devotees taking things that are meant for yajna to satisfy Vishnu and they're exploiting it for sense gratification. So I'm not giving them all these opportunities to drag themselves down to hell. And in the concluding part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, as this tendency continues, the restriction becomes more, the supply becomes less and less until there is none of these things that Prithu Maharaj wants earth to supply. She doesn't supply at all because there is no sacrifice. Without sacrifice, there is no rain. Without rain, there is no grain. Without grain, what people are going to eat? If we don't complete our devotional business in this lifetime, we will get an opportunity next life to engage in devotional service. But if you do take another birth after this one and you do continue in devotional service, understand that Kali Yuga will be advanced and it will be more difficult. If it is difficult now, it will be more difficult later. We need to try to focus and finish our devotional service now and help people around us who don't have a clue to read Srila Prabhupada books and understand the necessity to pay attention now. By negligence and laziness, we will not get to the destination we want. External circumstances doesn't get better. We need to take shelter of the process of devotional service carefully, follow the instructions of spiritual master, try to always remember Krishna and never forget him. I will stop here. I apologize for any shortcomings during reading and summarizing.